Okay, so what came to mind today to speak on is I am definitely or consider myself in the least of these categories, and not in a derogatory way, just like characters in the Bible or people that others saw as being awake or as saintly, and they never thought of themselves that way. Um, and I'm not saying necessarily that I am in either of those categories. I just have some clarity that I wanted to share with everybody. Um, there is no hierarchy, meaning in this body, I'm not above anyone or below them, or worse than, or better than. Do I always know that or act like it? Absolutely not. But the experience is becoming more and more real to me, that I need to choose that on a regular basis and recognize that on a regular basis. For myself, there's a sense of urgency, sometimes based off of fear and sometimes not, sometimes in a place of ease and comfort, that for myself, been there, done that, tried this, tried that, in areas that I've been stuck in hasn't really produced the results that I would like, and it's been awful to experience, probably awful for friends and family to watch, I'm not sure. And those that had high expectations at different times had put me on a pedestal, and I definitely fell off to the degree that they felt hurt, abandoned, let down. And then I had also done that with others. Put a form or a book or a person or a body of people or a tradition up on a pedestal, and then it let me down. So what's coming to mind just then is idols, and how anything, any object, based on my past experience, there can be a lot of charge to it. And so a good example would be when I was in recovery, had stopped drinking alcohol. My daughter was young at the time, and she was attending meetings and things that I was doing to, help myself navigate in a different way without alcohol. And so often she was around those circles or on the outskirts of those circles if we were having fellowship and fun somewhere, or whether it was a serious discussion. And so there was a time that we were taking a walk, and she noticed a beer can and kicked it and threw it, and just really, really, really angry with this beer can. And I said, it's what are you doing? What are you so angry for? And she said something to the degree of, that is really, really bad. That is so bad. That is the worst. And I said, well, it's just an object. Sometimes the effect that it can have on people can be painful, but it's not the object itself. And so for myself, I have a bazillion examples of, if I'm walking in a place, when I would feel offended, or, how dare they, with just objects in themselves. And so, of course, it's been, I think, everybody's experience that we can't avoid judging things based on our perceptions and what led us there. And so if I see a person whom I've never met, who has characteristics, or posturing or something, and it invokes a response in me, either a good one, like, oh, delightful, long lost friend, what a joy to meet this person. Or if it's like, ugh, or just a disgust or a foul tasting or a anger rising or a defensiveness or some wanting to attack. And now this person may just, not appear to anybody else anything, but for whatever reason rather, there's a charge there. So with idols, Christians get hooked up on the idea, and a lot of Christians, are really offended by, let's say, crosses. They don't think that has any place in the church because it's a symbol, or they will base a whole belief system or a different denomination of Christianity as not being right because they have a symbol. So if the Catholics have the, different saints, and that's a common symbol within the Catholic Church, there's a whole bunch of Christians and non-Christians that, or uh, to confess to a priest, can offend all, and so in general, Christian churches remind me of high school or grade school or middle school rivalry, and often don't mix. And then really don't mix when it comes to other beliefs, and would come barreling into a country, to a community, to a different belief system with the idea that they're going to save a whole village, save a person or people's group from their beliefs, and that their beliefs are somehow lesser than or wrong or, judgment there, regardless. So, of course, these different cultures had experienced a lot of atrocities and things by the hands. And, I'm not going to blanket stately say it's white because, Christian churches throughout time weren't just only white, whatever that means, and there's so many variations there. But definitely with a group of people that, with an idea, and that often didn't turn out well. Now, there are those that have always had, I'm sure everybody here has met one, a servant's heart, where they really don't see differences or color. They're not into um, smash their ideas on the top of somebody's head or force them in to see it this way or that. They just want to be of maximum service, and so they go with the intention to what other country or area within their neighborhoods, and it might just be a next door neighbor. They might notice an elderly woman who has no family, who, is always alone, who has to walk alone and provide for herself. And so a servant's heart might go ahead and, start walking with them or get to know them or leave some groceries on the doorstep for them. Um, without motive or needing accolades or things like that. So it's never all or nothing. In other words, there are Christians that just truly love God, their own paths, and want to share that and express that love that they feel from that source, that belief of Jesus and the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. Okay. So then it's been my pleasure throughout life to come across almost, I'm sure there's a belief or two that I've missed or I myself wasn't paying attention at the time. But everyone, as far as spiritual and non-spiritual backgrounds, meaning, okay, for example, a voodoo priest whom I met. Several chiefs, one Lakota, or teachers within different tribes within the United States, but in leadership, in service, in the military within the United States, also, and when exiting the military, a lot of the people that I met through time, came to find out their basic belief or non-belief systems, and they were coming together often to heal, lean on one another. And okay, with the priests, my mom was Southern Baptist, and my dad was Catholic, and my mom was from Joplin, Missouri, and my dad was from Brooklyn, New York. And how they ever got together, who knows? So there was a confusion out the gate, and I had aspects and love and fondness for each practice. And so, but in that, priests kind of had a certain, or seemed to have a certain demeanor. There wasn't a lot of joy expressed outwardly. There was a lot of tradition, and I jokingly later called the kneeling and the standing and then the back to the kneeling and the sitting, the Catholic calisthenics, but there was a comfort in that to me, that tradition, and the comfort of lighting a candle for someone, different things. And then with the Baptist church, there was a lot of the mystery, but yet the feeling of something bigger than myself. The enjoyment, the comfort, and the safety that's something I couldn't see provided. So a lot of Catholic priests have been in my path in general, and my favorite one was like those of you who might be familiar with John Denver, an acoustic guitar player, very approachable, not priestly. In other words, he was usually getting in trouble in general, because he was the one that didn't represent his chosen faith. Now, overseas, and I've experienced a different idea about Christianity, and that the men at the coming of changing of age went through a I'm thinking ritual, but there was like a horse brush base with glass, shards of glass on the inside, and they would tap one another's back to get the bleeding started. And then I think there was something else that got the cuts deep enough to where it was a constant flow of blood. And then they would have these bamboo type, uh, uh, I don't know what you call them, like nunchucks, but more of them. And so they would, as they were walking down the streets, they would be, doing their backs and the lower back and the middle back. And then over time, they had learned that sometimes that caused infection. And so there would be stops where they would stop and something was washed over the back. I'm assuming maybe had a little bit of a astringent base to clean the area, and then they would continue on. And at the end of these journeys, they would be nailed to the cross, not till death, and I don't remember the duration. So the idea, they felt that they needed to suffer and walk in Jesus' path to experience what he experienced. And I noticed that there was similar things in a lot of seekers, um, where they would put themselves through something where temptations were present, or they would go within the wilderness, step away from what they knew to be home or safety or their village. And oftentimes it was only men spoke of in doing this. I don't know the history as far as women in it, and if they also practiced these things and what that looked like, as much as hearing and studying about men who would do that. Um, and then the scientific community, a lot of experiences of those that had a passion for that, that their wonderment and awe of something they can see, touch, measure, evaluate, prove, that things like, the common line running through all things living. or the concept of time, that this time is it, there's nothing else. The concept of this solid object is made of space. Um, how does it happen that when we turn on a switch, that the electricity goes through? And so I've had a lot of exposure to that. That's also been a comfortable area for me. In math, I enjoyed spatial math, geometry, seeing the space and the structure of things, whether it was a cell or a building. And so there, just overall, I've had a whole bunch of varied experiences with people that I normally wouldn't mix with, or would uh, be seen by that group or my own group, whatever that happens to look at, that we ought to not mix, and but ended up mixing anyways. Now, the more life changing would be when I had a perception, or someone else had a perception, a strong one, against each other. Either I really, didn't want to break bread with that person anytime soon, or I saw that that person had hurt or offended someone that I deeply cared for, or myself, or vice versa, to where you could just tell the mere sight of me made them angry. So there was times that I had opportunities where literally I would just be sitting with that person, and it would almost be like, oh, it's time, it's meeting time. And then I would ask in the way that I asked, please give me the words of what to say here, you know. So a conversation would open up, and then now one was that there was actually a fondness or a understanding of commonality with one of the chiefs at the Lakota reservation, and we were sitting in front of one another, and we were discussing common struggles, and he would say different ways that he has found, or the tribe had found, to navigate those issues. And then I would share the common problems as well, and how I had found, or a group had found, how to navigate and go through those issues. And then there was a brief moment where his suggestion to me was that, and he would have it made of a medicine bag. And then he had wanted me to put it underneath my pillow, as to, have kind of a part of the tribe, or a part of the, just to comfort for me, and to help me, and to remove anything that we had talked about that was negative. Then he had asked me my experience, or what I thought about baptism. Had I been baptized? What did I think about it? And I just, essentially shared that I thought it to be symbolic, that if you dunk me in a tank and I don't want to change, nothing's going to happen. That I disagree with some people that you have to, that you're the only authority that can do that, and that sort of thing. So in general, that's what I thought about baptism, and shared that with him. And so we mutually decided that these are symbols that we had grown fond of, and that we did see the value in, but that they weren't necessary. But as a gesture of care and respect to one another, we would try it. So that's a okay. So as far as in the worldly sense, there was no reason we ought to meet. There's too many differences, or we're worlds apart. Um, we got our own solutions, or whatever. And there is definitely, as far as on the whole, misunderstandings both ways, hatred, grief, despair both ways. I would imagine those that had been injurious to different tribes throughout history. Um, that some of those, it became their nightmares, of how would they have done those things. And then the experience of the victim, or the one that would lose a family member or a whole family, and the devastation that goes with that. So, A Course in Miracles is just one of the tools and things that help me to find my way. It's just a form, but it's a perfect form for me, and I continue to use it. But there's a statement in there: when an ancient hate becomes a current love. And I've experienced that too many times to say that, and it is miraculous. And because that doesn't usually happen on an average day. And so when I see an opportunity or I'm given an opportunity, even if I'm scared or angry at the moment, not always did I take the opportunity, but to remove that. So myself, I got a lot of work to do. I believe that we're all teachers and students to one another, that we all have something to learn and something to teach. That if there is perfection, I have no idea what that looks like. But that I can always, there's got to be a better way. Every day, there's a little bit better way than what I did yesterday. I can remove things and work on removing things that are causing me pain and sorrow and suffering and anger and the feeling of separation. And I can work on that each day. And it is a choice for me today. Less and less do I see terrible incidents happening to me. And what am I going to do? But when I do, they're very real. And it seems as if there's no escape, no hope, no one to help, um, no way out. And so, oh, that's a surprise. I didn't think I would talk about this today. So it seems as if, it's probably gone on throughout all of history of those taking their own lives. But it seems to be at a more alarming rate. I don't know if there's truth about that number wise. Have no idea. But I'm seeing it a lot. So there must be an opportunity to share my thoughts on that, of where I'm at with that, and so forth. So a personal story is that I was not in a good place, and I was actually in a lockdown unit and considered a threat to others and to myself. And so I was in that area, and I had to go and get physical things checked out. So I went and got these physical things checked out. And so I was off of the ward. And at the time they weren't requiring that I had escorts or anything. And so I went to the restroom. And in between there, I had obtained a knife, and it was in my boot, like the jump boot or the military boot. So I had made a decision that it just was too much, that I was causing others too much pain, that they would be better off, certainly. And then, more importantly, my thinking was, I was pretty sure that if that I was beyond help, in the sense of where I felt I was a danger to others. And I thought by taking my own life, I would be saving other people from me hurting them. Either way, it's all crazy thinking, but at the time, it is not crazy. At least for myself, I was totally clear that I no longer wanted to be injurious, that anyone could be a better mother to my daughter than I had been, or could be, or would be. And I was completely convinced of all these facts. So I had reached in my pocket, and the only reason the thought came to me that I did not want for them to find me and not have my ID, as to expedite and let my parents know. Because I knew, my perception was my parents were in excruciating pain over me. That I was causing them so much harm that they could at least go on and breathe again if they knew I was dead. And so that was my thinking. So I went to reach in my pocket, didn't even know if I had the IDs, and I had a picture in there of when my daughter had first been born. And there was a feeling, that, oh my goodness, I don't know how I can go on. I have no idea, but I can't leave. That is selfish. I don't know how I'm going to do it. And I just don't know. But when I saw that picture, I just made a decision again. I got to stick around. I don't know how, but I got to stick around. So, so back into talking in general about the feeling of separation due to we have different symbols that comfort us. We have different ways. We have different beliefs of how to handle a situation. Mm.